Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. My buddy Rhett got a walnut today. I cracked it and everything. Let's see if we can. There it is. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure she likes walnuts. I know at night I'll give them to her and I'll crack them, and then it. I don't know. They're gone in the morning. I don't know if she's tossed them out or whatever. But here's a walnut, Rhett. Let me set this down. There you go. Set it down to her because the whole thing is cracked, so it'll fall apart if I hand it to her. Yeah, looks like she's enjoying it. So it's pretty hot here. I think we're under a heat advisory today. It's like 78 degrees right now. I took the dogs walking. It feels like 90. It felt pretty warm out there. We got a high of 96 Fahrenheit today. So it'll be it'll be pretty hot today. Then um, what our humidity's 93%. So I thought there was always a direct correlation on what it feels like in the humidity, but I guess not. I don't know what all goes into what it feels like. I guess maybe it's like how windy it is or something. And then, okay, so we are at the absolute darkest zero moon. And I have found that this is when I am generally most energetic, but sort of deeply thoughtful. So that's that. So years ago, gosh, like 10, 15 years ago, we went to Australia for an athletic event. And we went to this really beautiful town. And it was neat because what was interesting about it was basically it was a very isolated area that's just absolutely beautiful. And they had that year, they had just implemented a train sort of thing that could take you from that town far away. But before the year that we went there, that train didn't exist. And what happened was, like, the kids would all do their track meet, and then once they were done with that, they would sort of let loose. And I think the drinking age, maybe, I don't know exactly. I think the drinking age was 18, and there were a lot of these kids who were 18 who were not allowed to drink in the U.S., but they were legal in Australia. I think that's how that went. But regardless of how it went, a bunch of kids found ways to get drunk, which was no big deal because it was a kind of an isolated area, so they could next day they could just go find them all. But the year that we went, they had started this like high speed train kind of thing that could take you like 90 miles away into another town, and a bunch of the kids had gotten drunk and got on the train and drove away. They were just gone, and they found them all, but it was like that was a new problem, like a problem that just didn't exist, that they had not built rules that would sort of accommodate this change to society. And that's exactly what's happened for me. Is I had a bunch of stuff working the way I wanted it, and then when I added delete, all kinds of edge cases that just didn't exist before presented themselves. But and that's one thing. But the other thing that is even more like abstract and difficult to understand. So now what was I used to be able to go like this, and it would re re sort of position all the visualizations. Um, but something that and this happens all the time. It's a little bit more difficult to sort of tie to real life situations. But we have two rules that I had gotten in my head that are both very reasonable rules, but they're mutually exclusive of each other. And one rule was that, hey, once one of these things is marked as being placed, as once they have their place, they get their place. That's their place. Whereas when we change this, there was another rule that said, hey, whatever you change this, it will reposition itself. Well, those two rules can't exist at the same time. One of them has to be given up. And now I remember that um, when I was working on my last one, that um, resizing ended up being just, it was just a huge pain in my butt. Every time I would have to like refresh to resize. I hated that. I liked being able to like resize, reflow with uh with that. With like when I do this, I wanted it to reflow because if I was showing it on a smaller screen, I wanted to be able to show it like, let's say I had two of them going side to side. I wanted it to redraw itself, but it never did. It wasn't as complicated as this one because it didn't have, you could only have one visualization at a time. But so I have two roles that are sort of in contracts with each other, and it's because depending on what the user's doing, like let's say you were placing all these things and you had them all exactly right. You were gonna, oh, I'm gonna have a big one here, and then I'm gonna have uh, five little ones around the side that show the different things, or maybe I'm gonna have a big one in the middle, and then I'm gonna have them like that, or something like that. And then I accidentally change this by one tiny little bit, and it redraws itself. That would be a huge pain in the butt. But at the same time, let's say I'm working on it and I want it to redraw. I want that. So I want both, is basically what I want. And I think for the most part, I would rather the default behavior be that it stays in place, and that if I want it to redraw, I think that's the edge cases when I want it to redraw, um, not when I think the edge cases me wanted to redraw. So not if otherwise. So I think I was trying to think through things, and it seems like over here, what I should have is like a reflow on change or something like that. Which, if you do that, then it redraws on like. But if it's not checked, then it doesn't redraw. So that's like from 30,000 feet seems like the right answer. And that's 30,000 feet from like the developer, I mean, from the user's perspective. But there's still another 30,000 feet. And I never really thought about this before either. Is that what about from the architecture of the application? What's the 30,000 foot view of that? And I think, I don't, under my, fortunately, what I did is I kind of set up my interfaces so that I would always be able to look at the interfaces and sort of get a sense of the layout of that. Okay, so we do have a layout interface. We have layout types and custom and tab. Okay, so this is sort of what we're doing. So basically, I think what we want is so we have a layout. Do we have a layout object? Let's see. I know we have our two components. So we have our app layout, we have our layouts, and we have app custom. So these are our two layouts. So let's say we're looking in custom layout. This renderer, see, so it works directly with the renderers. The custom layout, but what I think I need like a state, right, of the actual thing, and whether of the actual all of these, and that would tell me if I've chosen, if the user has chosen to reflow on resize or to not reflow on resize, or left it at not reflow on resize. And that's going to be a Boolean, and I guess we will need like a layout object, right? And because right now what we have is interfaces, layout types. And then basically in our services, I don't know if we have a service that it sort of just describes, well, app model, what is this? visualizations. Do I even use this? It is weird that it's lowercase m. I guess we could do this. Oh, okay, so this I think makes sense to put it here. I don't know if this is being used. I'll find out real quick by changing that. Okay, so we aren't even using this app model. I'm assuming in here, yeah, it'll break if I, let's go ahead and fix that. So I think this describes the whole application. So I think it makes sense that this would be where we would know. Now, how does, okay, there's a different service though that, oh, there's the UI. Actually, this is probably service, ST render ID signal. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, what else do we have? I'm curious. Okay, so if I go to the menu, okay, so set layout, we call, oh, we handle it in the router because the router is our source of truth on this. But what we want is to be able to say whether we're reflowing or not. And I don't remember. I guess I had kind of thought ahead and I was like, okay. But it's wild. Get visualizations. This visualization service. So this will return all of that, all of those. But I don't even think this function's ever being used anywhere. Like you would have thought something would break. If anything was using that, something would have broke. Okay. So, but it seems like this is that. It would have been nice if I had put a comment in here that was using adds application model concept. Okay, so I'm going to assume that whether this is supposed to reflow or not reflow is something that would go in app model service, which is up to now unused. And I'm going to assume that for now there's only two, but I think there'll be more flows because I think there might be like a reflow on add, reflow on delete, or reflow on change. So yeah, I just want you to redraw everything and put everything in order whenever things change, or don't on change. Okay, well, reflow on resizes but not on changes. You know, I could see that. Like keep everything in the screen as I'm working through things. So anyways, let's go back to our interfaces. And this is a layout type. And under layout, I guess I'll say reflow types. So we'll just create a new file. I know other than interfaces, I try to use the tool. But interfaces, it's just so small. Reflow types.ts. And then I'm just going to look at layout types, and since that's a nice, easy one. Okay, so all I have is the... So I'm just going to have... Yeah, I guess I'll do it like this with these types, where it can be resize or none. In the future, we may have other types, and we may have types that yeah, we may have like may turn this to the. Well, I guess we may have a. I don't know. I don't know exactly how we're gonna do this, but resize. This is called reflow type. And never. That's all it can be. Is either if it's a reflow type, it could be resize or never. And then in our app model service, we're just gonna make this a variable. Reflow. And then it's of type reflow type. And for by default, it's going to be never. And then we're going to add a function called set reflow type. Set reflow. And it's going to accept a reflow type. And it's going to return a boolean. And we know it's probably just going to always return true. And then this dot reflow equals reflow. And then we're just going to have a get reflow. It's not going to anything. It's not going to take anything, and it's going to return a reflow type. And there we go. And then return this dot. And we don't really have to worry about, oh my gosh, like timing issues, I don't think, because like they shouldn't be clicking the button to set off reflow and resizing at the same time. You know, that's the mindset we have right now. Anyways, maybe there'll be some other thing in the future where that could happen at the same time, but for now, there's no way. All right, so now, let's see where we at on it time. Okay, so now in the menu here, I want to add the ability to toggle reflow on and off. And I guess it should be like a little like maybe an orange, red block when it's off and a green checkbox when it's on next to it, and then just reflow. I'll just say reflow because right now the concept is very limited, and it may stay limited, and it might even be one of those things I could totally see being like we never ever turn reflow on, or we always keep it on, and then we need to make the default on, or something like that. Like I could see this being a total non-issue, or I could see it being like a killer app, you know, like, oh, that is the feature that makes that pushes this thing over the top. And we just won't know. We just will not know until we get to play around with it. So anyways, now we have our menu component. How does that work? Okay, so table rows. Okay, so that's these type things, and then where is the, how did I do that? So this is the apps right here, and then this is the, oh, maybe not. Oh, that's the layout. Okay, so that's the one for layout. But we are not working on the layout. What is this one? So I guess what we do is we add a second thing up here. Well, this is the more vert though. And then, oh, this is what comes on. Oh, okay, and then this is the button. Can we just add another one? Because it doesn't have any names that sort of identify it or anything. Let's see what happens when we rebuild. Yeah, okay, so that's cool. So this is Reflow. And we want a checkbox, and we're gonna want to like change it based on whatever, like we want to change it based on what it's set. Right now it's set to false, that it's not supposed to reflow. So I do not really want to play around with trying to figure out what the right mat icon is. So I'm just going to put what is the mat icon for a green checkbox? Check circle or check circle outline? All right, let's try check circle. So it is checked. I guess I kind of like that without a color on it. I guess let's try outline. Let's see what happens. Looks like we can, hey, let's try this success icon. Curious. I don't know why we don't have an outline. Okay, so that did not work. Oh. We could try this, color primary. It's just really nice practicing stuff. Be in a situation you can just become more comfortable with. I mean, I just angular material is gonna be like, yeah. So that didn't work at all. I don't know why that's not doing anything. Let's try this. Now I'm just curious. So slow. So that works, but I think the basic color is better. Okay, so we only want to do this if, what's the other one? The corresponding. Icon to indicate not checked. Okay. Okay, so check box outline blank. There we go. So that would be if it's unchecked. Now it's kind of interesting. Did I get rid of? Oh, I got rid of the one I had. Okay, so let me copy that and then undo. Hello. Okay, so yeah, so we'll get that when it's not reflowing, that when it is reflowing. Now, how will we know if it's not reflowing or if it isn't reflowing? We will inject our app model service, which has our reflow types that we didn't, that we over here, and it has a getter and a setter. So when they click this, we'll be able to set it and all that stuff. It should be simple. Simple, simple, simple. I'm wondering, so yeah, today is the best I felt in like since last probably Thursday, and it's like, oh, this seems simple. I wonder if it always seems simple or if it's just that my brain is functioning at a better level. All right, so do we already have our inject? Yes, we already have inject, and we're using it right here, so I guess we should do that. And this one is called app service. App model service. So it's kind of funny because I don't know what inspired me to build that, but I built it about 4 weeks ago, and now we have it and we're using it. I don't know if we're using it in the way that I had envisioned using it, but it does seem like this is the applications model. And I do know that in the future I want to be able to export the whole application, not just the not just individual meshes and not just individual visualizations, but the entire thing too. I don't know if I'm going to figure that out, but now I'm just going to assume this is the only place that that ever gets changed. I could be wrong, but it's false. I guess what I want to do, I think, okay, first of all, which is a reflow type. Is equal to never. So we never want a reflow. And then in the constructor, so we're going to create a constructor. We're going to set it to whatever it's been defaulted to in the service. So this dot reflow is equal to app model service dot reflow, get reflow. And then we're going to want to, so now we will in the, what's our time, 8:35. So now in the template, we're just going to choose the one based on what it is, which is the reflow type is never. Now sometimes you'll see like in your console, like a little weird message that only shows up, I believe, during application development. It doesn't show up on a distributed application, but it'll say like item changed before the. It'll give you this weird message that is very very like normally I'll end up. I always look out for those because they're very annoying and they just litter the heck out of your console log. But so you'll get that, and I would imagine one of the things that I've seen cause that is if the default, like, so I have this default of never here, but let's say we were to change the default in the service, that's fine because here in the constructor we take whatever the default is to the service. That's where sometimes you'll see that error if I change it in the service but I don't change it out here, if I don't have these in sync. And I don't think I can say. Let's see, app. Oops. App service dot. Yeah, see, you can't do that because it doesn't exist yet. And I don't even think it matters even if you do it afterwards. Oh, well, maybe that's how I want to do that. Instead of setting it to something, just get it straight from the service. I guess if I'm going to do that, I'm going to just put that first then. And then, yeah, like these decorators ones probably should go first, and then services second, and then variables third. And the only reason variables, and this is a new rule for me, and the only reason variables should go third is because you can set them once you've brought the service in. Now, I guess it is possible you might want to execute something on a service. Well, so even if that was the case, I still would probably want to. Yeah, even if that was the case, I'd still want to have the variables after the services are instantiated. All right, so let's see, make sure all that works. And we still have our double, right? Double bubble. Double bubble. I saw that in this movie called The Gentleman. It's such a good movie. The Gentleman with it's so good. So we can do like this. Was it? Is it percentage or hashtag? Hashtag if. And then it's not hashtag. It's percentage, isn't it? No, it's definitely, yeah, it must be percentage. True. Hi. Oh, I cannot remember how to do it. I know I must do it over here. Oh, at. Let's see if that works. Yep, so the high. That is interesting, though. The high ended up going to the right side of that. But, so if, what is it called? Reflow equals, oh, so it didn't, I could have sworn they had that working. And this is really the kind of stuff that that like the freedom you really lose a lot of times when you work in like sort of an agile environment, because like you're just like thinking of things as you go. You're like, oh, okay, I need this. Oh crap, okay, I need that. And you just can't do that, which is great if you like if management knows exactly what they want and they have time to deal with you. Always, no, resize. Maybe it's one word. Okay, what am I doing wrong? That also looks like it definitely wants the 2 words. Okay. So now we should just get the one unchecked because it's not. So now when we click this, we want to, I think it adds a viz now, right? Yeah. When we click that, we want to change that value in the we want to change this value, the reflow value in the service, because this is not the only thing that's going to need to know about this. Oh man, so that makes me think that that really does need to be a signal, not a state variable. And I guess it'll be a useful exercise to convert that from a state variable to a signal, a service variable, not state, a service variable, service class variable, service class attribute, to a signal. Change that from a like a boolean or a fixed value to a signal, where so that when the application, the animation application can listen, but I guess it doesn't need to listen because it checks whenever the resize happens. It's like, oh, okay, do I need to resize? Okay. So yeah, maybe it doesn't. So anyways, toggle reflow. And basically, we're just going to want it to go to whatever it isn't. So dot reflow is equal to never and app model service set reflow is equal to resize. We're just going to, since we're toggling, we're just going to assume that it's never. So it just goes back from never to resize never. If we ever decide to add additional sorts of nuances, this will need to make a code change here. My guess is we won't ever need to do that. Never. And then I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I don't know if that's going to automatically update. I don't think it will. I think I need to set it to. Oh, and I do need to call it. Toggle reflow, and I don't think that accepts anything. And I feel like that is a bit confusing, so let me put a line in there between. Save that again. That should have no effect though. So it is toggling it, but it's not updating, which that doesn't surprise me. Now it'd actually be interesting to see if I had set it to the variable itself. This is just a curiosity thing. I'm definitely not going to leave it this way because I think this would lead to some massive confusion down the line. But I'm very just curiosity. So if I go, yeah, so that still that didn't give it a reference. It actually set the value, which makes sense because it's a primitive value. Um, so let's see if we do this, if we end up with a weird complaint that I'm changing the value before it could be published or something. And inspect. Now let's see. All right, so it is now toggling. It is interesting. So when you click that one, it stays up. But when you click this one, it goes down, which I think is exactly what you'd want. Once you've clicked it and told it to reflow, then close and let me continue on. All right, so 8:46. That's probably a good time to call it a day. So tomorrow, basically, we need to add code so that when we're resizing, if the reflow is on, and there's been a resize, it updates everything, and um, and it'll be interesting to see if it ends up being a lot easier to say, hey, when reflow's on, if you add anything, just reorder everything from scratch like it was nothing, and when reflow's off, um, and you add something, then yeah. So and if that's easier, I'll just code it that way, and then and I'll change that uh, the types to always and never, um, and then we'll just see what what feels right. I suspect will, other than for Cypress, will never want to reflow. But for Cypress, we will want to reflow because I think it'll make it'll be one more thing that we can do in the Cypress. It'll just look cool when Cypress resizes and it reflows. Um, and then we may go deeper into it. Maybe we'll want, like, hey, when reflow's on, we want you to maintain the basic proportions of everything too. So if it goes to half the size, everything's half the size. If it goes to double the size, everything's double the size. Who knows? Right now, basically, if you resize, basically it's going to reset all of it. Or in my mind, I don't know, whatever is easier. But I think it's going to reset everything like it was never, ever set. Like these are all brand new and we're just setting them up. We're setting up in order. And then if reflow is off to never, then when you change the size, everything just stays where it was at. And I don't think we ever have to deal with the idea that someone's going to change the size and they don't have set values, because you get a set value when you get created. Um, so anyways, that is that. I feel like we made really good progress. I definitely feel like my brain is functioning at a much higher level today than it was at this time yesterday, because honestly, nothing seemed simple yesterday. Um, and then today it was just like, oh yeah, we'll just inject this and we'll just do that and blah 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 blah. So, anyways, I got to go. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.